Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, today for Try It Out Tuesday, we are going to create some pies. We're using the brand new Spellbinders Pie Perfection collection. This was designed by me and I'm excited I get to share with you a couple of projects. We're going to make apple pie today. So I have some of the elements that we need to create 2 cards. And we're going to start off by doing a little bit of die cutting. So to die cut, we're going to use these 2 for our first project. And this is the Perfect Pies die set. And this will make a front profile pie. So I'm taking the crust, the little pie plate. Since it's apple pie, we're going to take the lattice. And then this is the pie base. We'll take that as well. Since it's apple pie, I do want to create some apples. We'll make some full apples today, and then we do want to embellish with a flower, and I think this is a real pretty flower along with the leaf. Now the apple, for the stem, you can use the cherry stem for the apple, and so we're going to use that as well. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. And I'm going to take some of my Spellbinders Color Essential cardstocks. First, we have some greens. I have 3 different shades of green. We're going to die cut out some leaves with the green. And then also, we're going to die cut out some cherry stems here. So, cherry stems for the apple. We just need 2. And I wanted a light and a dark. So we're going to die cut those out with that. For my flower, I think we're just going to go basic white. And since it's going to be an apple pie, we need some red cardstock. And this is pomegranate. These are all 3 greens from Spellbinders Color Essentials. I don't know why my camera's going in and out, kind of fuzzy. Okay, zoomed in a little bit more. For my pie, we're using the colors of cardstock. This is peridot, rainforest, and fern. And then for our pie, we're going to be using pomegranate. We're going to die cut out a couple apples. For the apples, you're going to need to die cut. We're going to make 2 apples. So you'll die cut out 2 with the pomegranate or your red cardstock, and then 2 with the white cardstock. So we need red and white for the apples. For our pie tin, I mentioned before that the silver mirror cardstock from Spellbinders just works fabulous. So we'll die cut out our pie tin. And then for our lattice and also for our crust, we're going to be using some Portobello cardstock. Let's make a little room here so you can see. Portobello. Now, I wanted a little bit of dimension to my pie crust, and normally I pop it up with foam adhesive, but I'm going to die cut out 3 of these to make a more solid crust, and then we'll layer those together. So I'm going to do my die cutting, and when I'm done, I will be right back. Okay, die cutting is all done, and we're ready to make some pies. Okay, we're going to do the apples last. First, we're going to create the pie. So let's set all of our little delicious decorations aside over here, and we'll work on our pie. And again, I cut out 3 of these. Normally, I pop it up with some small foam squares, and your small foam squares should fit behind there. You might have to trim them in half. But instead, today I thought we would layer them together. So I'm going to go ahead and layer 2, and then on my 3rd layer, hold this down a bit. On my 3rd layer, I want to do a little bit of shading. Let me set these aside. I'm going to bring in some vintage photo, and we're just going to add a little bit of color to our lattice top and then our very top pie crust. And I'm going to go from the bottom up. The bottom of your pie crust is like the bottom of a smile. You can see here. So if it's shaped like a smile, that's where you want to put it on the bottom. If it's a frown, you're inking the wrong side. So let's add a little bit of shading. Really, any kind of brown ink you have would work. And I just think this adds a little toastiness to our pie. Okay, we'll set the vintage photo aside, and then we can just go ahead and add our last layer on top of our crust. And then we can work on our pie. I'm going to add some glue behind my lattice crust, and then we're going to we'll add our crust to our pomegranate cardstock, and it should line up perfectly over the top. So far, so good. Now I'm going to take my pie tin, add a little glue at the very bottom of my pie here, and then we can add our pie tin. I think pies are great for any occasion. So there's the base, there's the back. And then we can go ahead and take our crust piece, and you can see the dimension that it has. It's like chipboard almost right now. We're going to add some glue behind here. For this crust, the crust will overlap a little bit. So you just want to make sure it's overlapping evenly. And I think I like the layers better when you stack them because it looks more solid. Okay, after we have this done, I do want to add a little bit of sanding sugar, we'll say. And to do that, I'm going to be using some like white glitter. I picked this one up from Walmart. This one is just like a chunky clear glitter. Spellbinders does have a sparkle cut. Let me show you what it looks like. But you can see it's a lot more sparkly, and I wanted to kind of the look of sugar. So this is going to work for me. What I'm going to do is take my glazing glue, and I need to put a pin in here. Okay, unclogged. I'm going to add my glazing glue in a few spots, and I'm going very organic, so it doesn't have to be a straight line. And since glazing glue is a little cloudy, you might be able to see it. The kind of messier the better for this card. I'm going to grab some scratch paper, and then we're going to add our chunky white glitter over the top. This is just going to give it the look of sugar. I like sugar on my pie crust. I like the way it just kind of crystallizes. It looks pretty and it tastes good. Okay. We're going to give this a little second to dry. Now, the glazing glue with the glitter will actually pick up the vintage photo. So it will go from like white to almost like a brown sugar color. And I think that just works out for the best. So it does pick up your Distress Oxide ink, whatever brown you decide to use, just to let you know. Okay, while this dries and sets, we're going to work on our flower and our apple. So we're going to set this aside over here. Now, the apples, you can see when you die cut them out, you have a really thin border. And you're probably thinking, how am I going to get some glue behind there? But it's very, very easy to get the glue behind there. And then also, this little stem is actually made for the cherry, but it's made for the apple too. So it's a universal stem. Now, to create the apples, we want the red outline. And then we want the white insert. So I'm going to punch out all of my seeds. That one's good to go. We are going to set the white outlines and then the red insides aside. We don't need those. Okay, next I have some black cardstock. Using my scissors, you see the width of the seeds? It's a little over 1/4 of an inch. What we're going to do is take a strip of black cardstock, you can see here, it doesn't have to be too thin. This is probably just shy of 1/2 of an inch, and I'm taking 2 strips because it's easier with some bigger strips. What we're going to do is take our white apple, add some glue behind it. We're going to add this to our black cardstock strip. You want to put it not towards the edge. You're going to, like a belt buckle, basically. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. Okay, so we have the white apples attached to our black strip. Now what we're going to do is take our glue, any kind of glue you have will work, and then we're going to go around the outer edge of the apple on the black strip. Like so. Let me show you. You see the glue's on the outer edge. And then what we can do is take our outline and add that right over the black strip. So we're just basically gluing the left and right of our apple. And I'm not concerned at all because the way we die cut it and the way it layers, you won't even need that adhered. You see how that goes? Very easy to create. Now once we have this done, I'm going to flip over my apples. We're going to add a little bit of glue at the top. And then we can add our apple stems. So pretty easy to put these together so far. And you know what? With the half apple, you would just do the exact same thing. Of course, you wouldn't need the stem. But okay, once we have our stems adhered, all you do now is take your scissors. I'm going to use my Mac Daddy since they're on the table. And you just go around the curve of the apple, go around that black cardstock, and your apple is done. So if you wanted to, these are pretty easy enough to where you could make a full background of apples if you wanted. You just cut off the edge, flip it around, and then cut off the other side. Pretty easy, especially when you have those black strips. You can actually keep these and create some more. So we have 2 apples that are ready to go. Now for the flower, we are going to just basically take both of our leaves. We're going to add a little dot of glue. And then we'll attach our flower. These are my favorite leaves in the pie decorations. I don't know why. I just like the how many there is on them. Okay, and this flower actually has embossed detail too on there. It's hard to tell. Okay, once we have our leaves adhered to our flower, to embellish our flower, we're going to go ahead and take some of our red Color Essential gems, and we're going to add the largest red one to the center of our flower. There is a flower center in the die set. If you want to use that, you could, but sometimes gems are nice because you have that sparkle. So our elements are done. This is still taking a little bit of time to dry, so no worries. We're going to set these aside. I'm going to zoom back out, and we're going to create our background for our card. Okay, next we need a circle for our background. So I'm using the Essential Circles die set. I'm going to take the largest one, and we're going to die cut out a circle with some white cardstock. Okay, now that we have our circle, this is where we're going to stamp our sentiment. Before we do that though, I do want to grab our card base. And today we're going to use some pattern paper. So I picked out some colors that kind of went really nice with red. But it has some pinks in there too, just because I love this color palette. This is with, I went through my ancient 6x6 paper pads. So if you ask me where these are from, I'm sorry, I don't know. Because I have a lot of 6x6 paper pads, and when I have loose pieces, I just throw them in a bin. So I'm not sure where these are from, but I like the letters on here. It says there's a lot of Friends. It says Friends, Rock, Incredible. I thought this would go really good for our background today. So we are going to take this pattern paper, and I'm going to trim down a card front panel with this. So slightly smaller. So I'm going to go 4 inches by 5 1/4, making sure it's right side up. And then while I'm at it, I like the stripe paper, but I wanted it kind of at a diagonal. So we are going to put it in the paper trimmer at an angle. And I want a 3/4 inch, maybe a 1 inch strip. We'll go a 1 inch strip of some stripe paper. I'm going to trim it down so it is a 4 inch strip. So we have some pattern paper in a 4 inch by 1 inch strip. And then I have some blue paper. This is tone on tone, kind of a tealy blue. I'm going to cut a strip with this at the let's go with a 1.5 inch, maybe 1 1/4 inch. And then we will trim this to 4 inches. Okay, once we have our papers trimmed down, I'm going to take my background panel. We're going to adhere this to our card base. And then this is going to go towards the bottom of our panel. About 1 inch up from the bottom. Yeah, let's go a little lower. About a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. Yep, I think that's better. 1/2 inch up from the bottom edge. Okay, now for this one, we need to stamp our sentiment. Our apples are going to go on the bottom. And so our sentiment's going to go right above here. And it stamps lovely, nice and even. And then we can go ahead and add this. I already have adhesive behind it because I put it in my MISTI. I'm going to add some adhesive, a little bit more adhesive. And then we're going to add this to our card base. And I like that pattern paper showing. I'm just making sure it's straight. And then we can add this to our card front. Once we have this adhered, I already put foam adhesive behind my apples. We can remove the release paper and add both of our apples down here on the bottom. The glazing, you can glue with the glazing glue, which is nice, so no worries. And then that will finish my first card. I love the way this looks. And we're going to start with our next card. Give this a little more time to dry. For our next card, we're going to be using the baker's box. So for the baker's box, we have to bake a pie for that. I'm going to die cut out a fork and a knife with my silver. My flour, I'm going to die cut out with some green. My white flour we'll use. I'm going to die cut out a white flour here. We'll die cut as we go. And for the baker's box, I thought we would go a little different. Instead of using white cardstock, I'm going to use that blue tone on tone. I'm going to put it at an angle. I think that would be fun. And then I'll die cut that out. You need the window in there. So I'm going to scoot this up here. Get some of that tackiness off. I was afraid it might tear the pattern paper. But we want a window in there. So we're tacking that down. And for this card too, we're going to use the little tag with the fishtail banner. I'm going to die cut that out with some white cardstock. I might die cut out two, because I always tend to get my sentiments crooked. And then for our pie, we're going to make another apple pie. So red pie, and this is pomegranate. And then we're going to use our portobello for crust, and I'll bring in another piece and we'll die cut out a couple of those. And we are going to make a lattice top pie. So we'll die cut that out as well. Okay, everything is die cut, and we're basically going to build our pie first. I think it's going to be the easiest. I'm going to start by doing a little bit of ink blending again. I'm just going to use the ink that's left over from my vintage photo from our first card. And I'm going to add some vintage photo to the edges. And for the top of the pie crust edge, I'm just going to go around the edges just a little bit. I don't think you're going to be able to see too much of this, but there is embossed detail on this pie crust, and so believe it or not, when you add a little ink to it, it does make it stand out a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to layer all three of our crusts together. Add a little glue. There is our little layered crust. Now what I like to do is first take your lattice crust, flip it around, and I'm going to add some glue behind here. And then I'll place this on my pie. Kind of center it. Good deal. And then I'll flip over my pie crust, and then we can add some glue behind here. And I'm going to add that over the top. Now, I want to tell you that the thinner the cardstock for your baker's box, the better, because there's on each side of your square here, there's score lines. And so what you want to do is just reinforce those score lines like so. There's one and two. One will go on the side of the box to create this, and then this is the back side, how it folds over. You're going to do that to all of them. I tried this with my thicker cardstock, and it was a lot more difficult. So the thinner, the better. Okay, so all of our score lines are reinforced. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to use some double-sided adhesive, only because it takes a long time, not long, but in video time it's a long time. I'm just going to use my score tape, and we're going to add some adhesive to the flaps. Now of course you don't have to do this, you can just use your glue, but you're just going to basically put glue on all these tabs. Okay, and then what we do is fold in the sides here, and then you have the flaps, those little tabs, fold those in, lift up your other side, connect the corners like so. Do the same thing to this one. Connect those corners. You can see the corners are connecting. And then the same here. See, we have our flaps. Open up the side since we reinforced the score lines. Flip these in. Pull up on the sides. Pull up on the side. When you do this too, you see how the V's or the diagonal angles, they should line up. They might overlap a little bit, and that's okay too. So this is the back side of your baker's box, this is where you're going to put adhesive. And then you have the front side. Okay, I'm going to flip this around, and we are going to take a piece of acetate that will fit behind the window. You can measure your acetate by taking this die here, laying it on top, and then going about 1/4 of an inch around this. I use score tape around my acetate, but you don't have to. You can use glue. I just think score tape is easier because you don't get the glue mess on your acetate. It still stays crystal clear. I'm going to add this window on the inside, tacking that down, and we have a nice window. Now, I did trim down. The baker's box when it's finished is 2.5 inches wide, squared. So that's what size this is of white cardstock. It'll fit right behind it. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my pie. I'm going to add some adhesive behind it. I'm just going to use my tape runner. Put that right in the center. Like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing that we did with our first pie. I'm going to add some glazing glue. And it's kind of cloudy, but it does dry clear, which is nice. And then we'll give this a second to dry. But we're going to let it dry on the inside of our baker's box. We're going to save a little bit of time. I'm going to use my glue. And we're going to just place this over our pie. You may have to shimmy it a little bit so that pie is in there. Just press down. Let that back adhere to the bottom of your pie. You know what? These would be cute Christmas ornaments. Oh my gosh, I just thought of that. If you were to put a little bow right here and, and some holly, oh my gosh, would those look cute on the tree? You guys know what I'm doing for Christmas, right? I'm just straightening this out in the back. Okay, I am going to set this aside and let that box bottom adhere. Okay, now I have my flower. We're going to add a gem to this. We're going to use one of those red color essential gems. I'm going to use one of the larger ones here. Well, that one worked out good too. So we have 2 good thank yous, which is not very common. Okay. Next, we're going to take the card base. I'm going to zoom back out. And I have some more of that pattern paper I was using. This one has the same colors, but it has the swirls. I thought this would be cute for the background since our pies are circles. I'm going to adhere this to the front of an A2 size card base. Okay, and then I think my pie's good. You can see my glazing glue is still cloudy. It will dry clear though. I put the back on here. You don't necessarily need a back for your pie when you adhere it to your card base, but I put the back on here because I wanted to add some baker's twine. And I'm not sure if I want to go black and white or red. I think I want to go red. So what I'm going to do is basically wrap a box. This is how I wrap my boxes. I wrap it around once and then wrap it around again and then tuck it under. I'm going to tie a knot with this right in the center, and then I can tie my bow. And I'm just using some red twine. And so I think that looks, doesn't that look so cute? That'd be so much fun. Now we did die cut out a fork and a knife. So with this, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive with my tape runner. And then we're going to crisscross our flatware. And then I'm going to add this to the center of my bow, my twine, and then I'm going to tie a bow right on top. I'm going to press down. If you guys want to secure your silverware to your box, you could. I mean, yeah, with some foam adhesive, I'm going to not do that. Now, I didn't add my bow because I'm going to do a fake, I'm going to cheat. Let's cheat. So what I did was cut a slit at the very end, and then I can tuck that in. Let me show you. It's a good way, you can't see the cut line, but it is a super good way to add your tag. Just makes it quick and easy, you don't have to fuss with it. Just all depends on where you want it. I think that's a good spot. And then that finishes card number 2. And then this is our card number 1. A couple fun projects using my Sweet Street collection. I hope you enjoyed them. I'll link everything down below. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. We will see you next time.